Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on historic Marcus Street in the heart of the Gaffer District. So glad that you joined us this morning. We've got a lot to cover. We're going to get to as much of it as we possibly can in the 7 o'clock hour. We'll be talking with former Congressman, current Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. He's going to be zooming in live from Albany. As we know, this is the last week of session, a lot going on. We're going to find out what we should be looking out for. Obviously, have a recap of the budget with Representative Sempolinski. But I'm asking, because Zoom is a little bit different live, if you have a question for Joe, would you please send it to me ahead of time so I can have them compiled? It is just a little difficult because of the way the computer works to switch between Zoom and email. So if you have any questions for Joe Sempolinski, I'd ask you to get them to me ahead of time. Thank you. Okay, let's get right to it. Yesterday, President Trump announced that he is dropping his $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund. It was the Justice Department that officially announced it. Senate Republicans complained about the lack of guardrails on the fund and grilled Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche about who could apply for compensation when he met with them on Capitol Hill about 2 weeks ago. The DOJ said it would abide by a federal court ruling that halted any payouts. The Justice Department said in a statement, quote, "The Department of Justice disagrees strongly with the decision on the anti-weaponization fund put forth by the United States District Court judge in the Eastern District of Virginia." Now, Trump was getting blowback on this issue from Republicans as well. John Thune, we can talk about a lot of people's issues with Mr. Thune. But people started to speculate, okay, will the January 6th riders get paid? Will Hunter Biden somehow get paid with the, as they said here, quote, lack of guardrails? As part of the fallout, Senate Republican leaders delayed action on a $72 billion partisan bill to fund Trump's immigration crackdown after dozens of Republican lawmakers objected to the establishment of the fund. Senate Republican leader John Thune told reporters on Capitol Hill yesterday that the issue with the fund would have to be resolved before the legislation could move forward. So kind of another fly in the ointment for Mr. Thune. Again, where is the SAVE Act? We can have our conversations about that if you'd like. Trump met with Speaker Mike Johnson at the White House where the fund was discussed. Trump agreed to the fund as part of his settlement of a $10 billion lawsuit with the IRS. In exchange for dropping the lawsuit, the Justice Department was to establish the fund with the IRS, and anyone who believed they were a victim of the weaponization of the federal government would be eligible to apply for financial compensation. A second federal judge, also was looking into the fund after a group of former federal judges questions its legitimacy. And I know somehow, even though the decision came from the Department of Justice, I see Drudge Report this morning calling it taco. Trump always chickens out. That is so overused and cliche and trite at this point. But apparently, when they hate something with a passion and it's reversed, they're sore winners, I guess would be the way of putting it, that they celebrate by always saying taco. Is very, very odd. Now, Senator Adam Schiff was on CNN's Out Front yesterday, and he said, I think this is a tactical retreat. He wanted this to be a part of the reconciliation bill that we're taking up this week, which is really supposed to be focused for the Republican point of view on more billions for ICE and CBP. But it was weighed down first by $1 billion for the ballroom and then by $1.8 billion for a slush fund. So I think this is just Trump saying, okay, I'm not going to include it in this bill, but I'm not giving up on this idea. I think the courts also helped force his hand, at least temporarily. The court's putting a pause on this. But this is the most brazen act of self-dealing corruption we have seen yet, at a time when, as your last clip demonstrated, the economy is really struggling. People are struggling. The cost of living is way too high, and they want the American people, they want the president and Congress to be focused on that, not enriching themselves and his cronies. All right, so that was just an update yesterday. It was arguably one of the bigger stories. It's being reported that Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu got into a little heated conversation with words, and it's being reported by anonymous sources, but with words not suitable for air, for broadcast. But we may talk about that in a little bit. But first, this is for our friend Climate Fact Friday, Bob. because I have a couple of quick updates on a few stories we've been bringing to you lately. One is about the Jill Biden memoir. Just a couple quick things on that. But Bethany Mandel at the New York Post says almost every day now, there's another headline warning about the collapsing birth rate across the developed world. And along with it, another think piece attempting to diagnose why younger generations seem increasingly reluctant to build families. This week, new figures out of England and Wales show that the number of babies being born has fallen to the lowest level since 1977, with couples delaying parenthood until their 30s or deciding against children altogether. The total fertility rate, dropped to 1.39 children per woman, the lowest level ever recorded. The explanation offered for this phenomenon tends to revolve around economics, and certainly there's truth to that. Housing costs have exploded and traditional childcare routes are expensive. Due to the ever-shifting nature of our economy, many young adults feel professionally unstable and financially precarious. Writing earlier this month in the New York Times, Anne Louis Sussman argued that declining fertility is tied to not merely finances, but to a broader sense of existential instability permeating modern life. As she put it, quote, "Many of the forces our economy is built on, AI, immigration, global trade, feel distressingly volatile. Disruption, once a byword for a disturbance or problem, is the governing ethos of a terrifying, powerful sector of our economy. The rise of prediction markets has turned the world into one large casino. The climate crisis is spiraling, as are the costs of everything that could enable parenthood, whether that's a roof over one's head or childcare." There's no question that younger generations feel anxious about the future, but this has been the case for most of human history. What's interesting is that post-World War II, there was a baby boom, not a bust. Even in the face of uncertainty, after years of devastating war and the Holocaust, those of childbearing years were investing in the future and bought in by bringing more children to the world. The modern situation is far less uncertain, and yet this is the time we're witnessing a cratering birth rate. Now, bear with me. We're going to get to the point of this. The difference between now and then is a prevailing feeling of hope that previous generations felt and is now absent in our modern discourse. Much of the current pessimism centers on the very future of our world and the sustainability of human life on our planet. We're beginning to learn the truth about these messages. New reporting indicates that much of the climate anxiety shaping millennials and Gen Z attitudes toward the future was manufactured through years of exaggerated predictions, catastrophic media framing, activist incentives, and scientific models that are now being quietly reconsidered or outright abandoned. So the idea here is that these younger people have been, from the cradle, told that the world is going to end, that there's nothing at this point we can do to save it. Oh, sure, we can throw billions and trillions of dollars at it, but at the end of the day, we're all going to, I guess, burn up in this fire. So why bring someone into this world is the idea. For over a decade, one of the most influential climate scenarios in the world was the United Nations-backed RCP 8.5 pathway, an extreme emission projection that became the basis for thousands upon thousands of academic studies, media reports, activist campaigns, educational material, and political arguments. It has been routinely treated not as a worst-case hypothetical, but as the expected future itself. Entire generations of children absorbed that messaging constantly, their whole life. They were told the planet was on the brink of collapse. They sat through school lessons, television shows, and museum exhibits warning about irreversible catastrophe and societal breakdown. Climate anxiety became not merely understandable, but fashionable and morally valorized. Young people openly discussed whether having children was ethical in a world that is dying. But now, quietly, the scientific and institutional conversation is shifting. Even the UN's climate bodies have begun moving away from relying so heavily on RCP 8.5, acknowledging what critics had argued for years, that the assumptions driving many of the most catastrophic forecasts were implausibly extreme. That reversal matters enormously because the emotional and cultural consequences of these predictions did not remain contained to scientific journals or policy conferences. They filtered into schools, therapy offices, social media activism, entertainment media, and the psychological architecture of an entire generation. You can't overstate the scale of the institutional machinery behind the messaging. Universities, NGOs, green energy firms, activist organizations, consultants, media outlets, carbon credit markets, political movements, and academic departments all developed enormous financial and ideological incentives around maintaining a sense of escalating crisis. Fear became economically useful. Entire careers and industries emerged around convincing the public that catastrophe was not merely possible, but imminent. Children growing up with this constant drumbeat of looming disaster bore the worst psychological burdening of the message. Climate activism itself was increasingly presented not simply as civic participation, but as emotional coping. The American Psychiatric Association has openly discussed climate emotions and recommended activism, climate groups, rituals, and therapeutic narrative reframing as mechanisms for processing eco-anxiety. In other words, rather than encouraging young people to critically evaluate whether the underlying assumptions driving their fear were rational, institutions often encourage them to immerse themselves more deeply in what was driving their anxiety. A society that relentlessly teaches its young people that catastrophe is around the corner should not be shocked when they become fearful about building families, investing in permanence, or imagining hopeful futures. We cannot undo the anxiety already instilled in an entire generation, but we can stop deepening it. And we got to keep in mind, too, this generation was also the one that went through school during COVID and the fear tactics there, and the teachers union shutting down the schools for way too long, but we'll continue. We can become more honest about scientific uncertainty, more skeptical of institutions that benefit politically and financially from public panic, and more careful about the emotional burden we place on children in the name of activism. Once people lose faith in the future, they eventually stop creating the next generation meant to inherit it. Again, that was Bethany Mandel. I thought that was a great piece, kind of a Tuesday Climate Fact Friday for Bob, and I thought he'd find that interesting, but I know you would as well. We've got a couple quick things here about Jill Biden, then we're going to move along to some stories really no way to segue to. We're going to get into Iran. There are some primaries going on today. Today is the big, I know many of you have been following it, even if you don't mean to, if you're any kind of social media user, but the Spencer Pratt race, that is up today for that LA mayor position. We're going to talk maybe just a second about that. We don't have too much on that, but I want to remind you again, please get your questions in ahead of time for Joe Sempolinski this morning because he is over Zoom live from Albany. It's tough to do both. I can't get the questions while we're live on the air like normal with Joe, so I would appreciate that. Tomorrow on the program, we'll be talking with Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard. And then on Thursday, Saritha Kamareddy, she is running for Attorney General here in New York State. She'll be facing Letitia James. So if you have any questions for her, that is going to be pre-recorded, just as a note. So that's another one where you'll need to get your questions in ahead of time for our Attorney General candidate. I also have a couple of other updates other interviews, and updates that we'll have later on in the week. I'm still trying to set the schedule for Friday, but we'll let you know as soon as everything is set in stone. But we got to take a short break. We're just a tad bit late. Keep those waves. We're doing good on waves already. 6 o'clock. We're already up to 7. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
What would you do with free gas for a year? Would you take the long way home? Take a road trip with your best friend? Or find somewhere you've never seen before? Because sometimes the best memories aren't planned. They're the ones waiting at the end of the road. Enter to win free gas for a year through the Quick Fill Fueling Discovery Summer Giveaway. Get ready for endless adventures ahead.
The health class film guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Our main weather influencer continues to be high pressure, keeping things comfortable and clear out there. Some nice sunshine for our Tuesday, a high of 73, and relatively light winds out of the north. As we head into the overnight hours, a lack of cloud cover will send temperatures into the mid to upper 40s. Then we find ourselves back in some upper 70s on Wednesday with some nice sunshine. The warming trend has mid 80s starting.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. We've talked the last few days about this memoir coming out by Dr. Jill Biden. And it's interesting to see the people that have somewhat turned on her over this. It's her own party. The Democrats think this is a distraction right now when she's talking about her husband potentially having a stroke during the presidential debate. They don't like the distraction away from the midterms. They just wanted to push kind of the anti-Trump narrative. Even from a former CNN political reporter, Nia Malika Henderson, tore into Jill Biden for the forthcoming memoir, branding the book an act of supreme selfishness. Ooh. In a blistering Bloomberg opinion column published late last week that just came across our desk, Henderson argued that Biden's new book confirms long-standing suspicions that she privately recognized signs of former President Joe Biden's decline while publicly defending his ability to serve another term. Yes, because in theory, just like when she gave the rally right after, so she thinks her husband has a stroke during the presidential debate. And yet they still go to a rally right after and then a Waffle House. But I'd also add that the takeaway for me is that she said she'd never seen him act like that before or ever again. I doubt that. This is a rewriting of history because we've seen similar to it in videos that were posted at the time. Henderson wrote, with her memoir, Biden has essentially confirmed the speculation that she was part of a cover-up, one of the biggest scandals in presidential history. The veteran political journalist who spent years covering presidential campaigns in the White House before joining Bloomberg Opinion seized on newly published excerpts from the memoir that detail the chaotic aftermath of Biden's disastrous debate. Is this a stroke? Jill Biden recalled thinking as Biden delivered rambling answers on stage. She also wondered whether he had somehow been drugged and worried that viewers would assume the performance reflected how he behaved behind closed doors. For Henderson, those admissions undercut years of public assurances from Biden's allies that concerns about his age and cognitive abilities were overblown. She went on to highlight Biden's acknowledgement that the former president was definitely aging. Henderson said there is no reason to believe Jill Biden's most recent public version of the events. The debate only underscored what Americans had been telling the Biden cohort for years, that the president was no longer up to the task. One of the most striking scenes described in the memoir comes immediately after the debate, with the then president described as turning to his wife and saying, "I really blanked up, didn't I?" Where Jill apparently, according to her book, replied, "Yes, you did." Henderson argued that exchange further undermines attempts to portray the debate as one isolated bad night. In their arrogance, said Henderson, privilege, and self-important recklessness, the Bidens held on to power as long as they could. She argued that Biden's decision to remain in the race left Democrats unprepared when he ultimately withdrew. And if you recall, when he originally ran, he was supposed to be a bridge to a newer generation. So he really should have stepped out way before he did. Henderson said if the former First Lady cared about the future of her party or her country, maybe she would have waited until after the midterms to dredge up all that went wrong for Democrats in 2024. What will history make of First Lady Jill Biden? Did she serve her husband well? Did she serve the country well? The answer to both questions is no. Yes, they've done a lot to destroy their quote-unquote legacy, but what's interesting about that is they'll still prop her up. Think of the praise that Dr. Jill got at the time. But Jonathan Turley, I like Jonathan Turley a lot. We quote him a lot. He has a piece at the New York Post that said Jill Biden's book is not even out yet, and she's already trying to get it displayed on both the fiction and nonfiction shelves. From her husband's mental decline to the pardoning of her son, the former First Lady has moved from the historical to the fanciful. Thomas Jefferson once wrote that honesty is the first chapter in the book of wisdom. But if her promotional interviews are any measure, that chapter appears to be entirely missing from her book. Last week, Biden faced a torrent of criticism, including from Democrats, even her own former spokesperson, over her claim to CBS News that she thought her husband was, during that debate meltdown, was suffering a stroke. The interviewer didn't mention the fact that Biden famously declared at the time that her husband was brilliant in the debate and denied he was showing signs of mental decline. Now, Jill Biden is rewriting the history of one of the most infamous lies Joe Biden ever spun. While running for office, Biden and his staff repeatedly insisted that he would never pardon his son, Hunter Biden, under any circumstances. Remember that? That is something that the media does not reflect on. White House spokesperson at the time, Karine Jean-Pierre, became indignant and mocked reporters who continued to ask about a pardon after the then president had repeatedly promised not to do so. Now, Jill is saying the pardon was the obvious and right thing to do. After all, she insisted, then the Justice Department changed, and I think that the process was not fair to Hunter. When Trump was elected, she added, we knew that he would target Hunter. Just one problem. It was her husband's Justice Department and two different panels of jurors who convicted Hunter. Indeed, even juries in the Biden's home state of Delaware and the heavily Democratic state of California declared him guilty. The only pending matter was his sentencing before the same judges that President Biden assured us would be allowed to resolve the cases. Indeed, even after those convictions, the Biden administration declared that the president would not break his promise and pardon his son. Presidents have long waited until the final days of their terms to grant controversial or self-serving pardons, like Bill Clinton's pardon of his brother, you recall at the time. However, none but Joe Biden had made the denial of such a pardon an issue in his presidential campaign, and none had repeatedly denied any possibility of it. Yet Jill Biden's new claim shows that Biden's view the public as chumps and dupes who will blindly accept anything that the establishment gives them. I truly supported it, she now insists, because we just could not let our son go to jail on a charge that no one would go, no one has ever gone to jail for. This is also demonstrably untrue. Her son was convicted on 9 tax evasion charges, in addition to multiple gun violations. Defendants have gone to jail for these offenses in many cases, including defendants in Delaware. So the Bidens imagine the public will believe that no one has gone to jail for tax evasion? Apparently, yes, they do. What's particularly galling is that Hunter Biden was allowed to escape charges for other federal crimes, including his alleged influence peddling that produced millions from foreign interests. Because as we know, he was pardoned from any crime he may have committed from January 1st of 2014 to December 1st of 2024. If the family was so afraid of retaliation by Trump, why didn't Joe Biden pardon his son for all crimes except those for which he was convicted during his administration? That would still have been an abuse of power, but it would at least have maintained the president's promise to allow the prior cases to proceed without interference. Of course, Jill Biden is pitching this book to the same diehard base that spent years engaged in willful blindness over her family's corruption and her husband's decline. After the pardon, the same Democrats who echoed Biden's prior denials of the possibility of any pardon ran to the cameras to treat this turnaround as much to do about nothing. Dick Durbin even called it a labor of love. Polls found only 2 out of 10 citizens supported this pardon. But that 20% is precisely the target audience for this work of pure fantasy. All that's missing are a sorcerer's stone, talking White House portraits, and a group of young Democratic wizards. Jill Biden's book is scheduled to be followed by a book by Joe, just in time for the 2028 presidential campaigns. Both appear to have ripped a page from the book of Winston Churchill, who said, "History will be kind to me, for I intend to write it." Jonathan Turley. I thought that was another good piece. Just to kind of wrap that up. All right, we got to take a short break. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in. We got a lot to cover. Those are just a couple of updates from stories we've had throughout the last couple of weeks. As I said, 6 states are looking at primaries today. We'll talk a little bit about it. I think a lot of people, myself included, are going to be watching closely about the Spencer Pratt. It's just such a fascinating tale. His campaign, and really one that seems to be speaking to the masses, but he does have a huge uphill battle running as Republican in L.A. Karen Basso seems to be a little concerned, but we'll see where that heads, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. But right now, we got to take a short break. Again, get your questions in ahead of time for Joe Sempolinski. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Stay with us.
cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
An albino buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
To the me I used to be, before talking to 988.
I felt alone.
I thought seeing hard things was just part of the job. I thought that having a bad day at work meant I was failing. But then I connected with someone at 988.
A real person texted back. Someone listened without judgment.
Now I know. Now I know it's okay to let someone help me too.
And I'm stronger than I thought.
We hear you. Call, text, or chat 988.
Dear Coach, they don't teach you that inner strength is the most important kind of strong, but you taught me that.
They don't teach you how to build confidence in yourself or how to deal with all the pressures all at once, but you taught me that.
First tee was more than golf. It's where I discovered what I'm capable of.
You didn't just prepare me for 18 holes. You were preparing me for every day of my life. Learn more.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Steve here. Hey, Steve. Good to hear from you. To prove how much Democrats believe you are either with them or you need to be eliminated, Sonny Hoiston recently sharply criticized Democrat Maine U.S. Senate candidate Graham Plantner, calling him a liar, a racist, an anti-Semite, and a homophobe, following several scandals. Imagine it being a Republican. There would be no end to asking for the elimination of the candidate. It appears there's absolutely positively nothing that the Democrats won't deal with in their own party as long as they can stay in power. She essentially admits that exactly. You're right, Steve. This is what, on The View, Sonny Hoiston, and we've got other comments about this. There's the scandal with the we'll say, racy texting. His wife standing by him after the campaign paid her $30,000. Funny how that works. So Sonny Hoiston says, I'm conflicted. They asked Cory Booker how he felt about this because I think all the allegations are true. The sexting with other women while married is definitely true because his wife is the person who gave the messages to his campaign to give them a heads up. And she did. She was disappointed that they were leaked, but what she was doing is to basically say, hey, I've got these, but you better be ready and vetted in case this comes up. But I'll continue. She disclosed it. So would she lie about that? So that part is true. He's also made racist remarks against African Americans. So he's a cheater. He's an anti-Semite because the fact that he had the tattoo from 20 years ago and, quote, didn't know what it was is a lie. Yes, he had a Nazi tattoo. So he's a liar, a racist, an anti-Semite. He's a homophobe. So he's all those things, and character does matter. But imagine that. Character does matter. ... But we have someone that has almost unbridled power in the White House at this point. There are no checks and balances. And the only way that we can maybe bring a bit of our democracy back is by having a Congress that functions and that has this checks and balances. I do think one of the only ways it is to win that seat in Maine. So I, like Cory Booker, said this is a concern, but our country is in grave, grave peril. So admitting that she would vote for, as she called, a liar, a racist, an anti-Semite, and a homophobe because our country is in grave, grave peril. It goes to show you how they rally around each other, doesn't it? It goes to show you how, as long as there's a D next to your name, they'll defend you to no end. Who was it that asked? Jeffrey Blair asked what other skeletons are lurking in Graham Plantner's closet. Or to Steve's point, David Hersani said, just what do leftists like Graham Plattner have to do to get Democrats to condemn them? Democrats are again acting like the occupy the moral high ground of American politics. But if 2026 has proven anything, it's that there's virtually nothing a left-wing candidate could say or do that would elicit condemnation from Democrats if doing so threatened their power. Democrats, for example, demand credit for their opposition to Maureen Galindo, the Texas House candidate who proposed putting American quote-unquote Zionists into concentration camps and castrating them. Galindo lost her Texas primary last week, but still won 36% of the vote. Not a bad showing for a politician championing mass imprisonment of her political enemies. The question, though, is whether House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries or AOC or anyone at Pod Save America or the Bulwark would have uttered a word in protest had Galindo already won her primary before making these comments. All the evidence strongly suggests no. And by the evidence, I mean their explicit support for slightly less offensive cranks, extremists, bigots, and terrorism apologists like new party power broker Hassan Piker, or the socialist Hezbollah fan Abdul El-Sahad in Michigan, or the Hamas apologist Chris Robb in Pennsylvania, a guy who suggested the massacres of Jews at Bondi Beach was a false flag operation by Zionists. Imagine telling someone 20 years ago that a leading House candidate in a New Jersey district right outside New York City had both volunteered for an al-Qaeda front in Europe and spent years being friends with the blind sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman, a longtime jihad preacher who was sentenced for seditious conspiracy after planning a day of terror in 1993. Adam Hanway defended Abdel Rahman during his trial, and yet not a single notable Democrat has called him out for it. Many of the same Democrats who expect Republicans to wring their hands over Ken Paxton, a man tainted by corruption, have offered full-throated endorsements of a man who knowingly got and kept a SS Nazi tattoo for 20 years. It's not just Graham Plattner's mentally unstable rantings, including, I can't go through all of them, but saying a Purple Heart recipient didn't deserve to live, or that all cops are, and then he cussed, or that white rural Americans are racist and stupid. There's other worse language, bad language, I should say. Instead, he still uses unhinged Marxist language right now. Plattner isn't the first scumbag to run for major office, but he might be the most extreme. Only two elected Democrats, as far as I can tell, have spoken out about Plattner's soft spot for Nazis. One is Senator John Fetterman, of course, who is under relentless attack from his own party for supporting Israel over Islamists. The other is Massachusetts Representative Jake Auchincloss. Now, if Plattner's opponent in Maine was a raging corrupt ideologue, independents might be torn between two dangerous candidates. But the Republican in Maine is incumbent Senator Susan Collins, perhaps the most milquetoast centrist member of the entire chamber. As a matter of fact, I can't remember what reporter said it, or somebody from what outlet said it, actually had the audacity to say that since Susan Collins votes with Trump 97% of the time. Now, mind you, a lot of those votes are the renaming of a post office, these type of things. But they actually said, where is it? Oh, it was Barbara Boxer, that voting 96% with Trump could be more offensive than Graham Plattner. That Susan Collins voting with Trump 96% of the times is more offensive than what we have learned so far about Graham Plattner. Again, to Steve's point, but just in general, they're rallying around their own party because at the end of the day, it's not about any kind of moral high ground. It's not about anything other than pure political power. That's what it boils down to. Pure political power. That's all they care about. It doesn't matter what your past, and this has been the history of the Democrat Party, as we've talked about in the past, whether it was with Bill Clinton, whoever. Some Democrats rationalize their support for a self-described communist by noting that control of the Senate is far more important than worrying about the individual ravings of unhinged candidates. Though gutless establishment Democrats did virtually do nothing to counter extremists during the primaries, there's logic to the thinking, but anyone espousing it is in no position to lecture Republicans about Paxton, or anyone else for that matter. The 2026 election will be held during the second term of an unpopular presidency, so there's no telling how many Democrats will win. Or perhaps the new reality is that pro-Islamist Marxists are now an influential part of the contemporary Democratic Party. How popular such a party will be nationally moving forward is yet to be seen. I'm constantly being assured that Democrats are the adults in the room. I'm supposed to believe that self-styled socialists are not only going to uphold norms, decency, and democratic institutions, but also improve the economic condition of Americans. That contention clashes with every shred of historical evidence we possess. Democrats had a chance to be normal. They've chosen crazy. I thought that was a great point from David Hersani. All right, we've got a couple weird things when we return. Don't forget, coming up, Joe Sempolinski, just a little bit. We'll be reading your comments. Keep those waves coming in, already up to 10, and we're not even halfway through the program. We can see some really good numbers here. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
I'm Grace. I'm Ida, and I lived in California. Timmy was just a puppy when I moved in. He's a emotional support animal. I had Missy, who is 15 years old and blind. Likes the people, he likes to greet all the people. All the employees are happy to see him. I feel that my pets are very welcome here. I feel very welcome here. I think it's great.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Our main weather influencer continues to be high pressure, keeping things comfortable and clear out there. Some nice sunshine for our Tuesday, a high of 73, and relatively light winds out of the north. As we head into the overnight hours, a lack of cloud cover will send temperatures into the mid to upper 40s. Then we find ourselves back in some upper 70s on Wednesday with some nice sunshine. The warming trend has mid 80s starting Thursday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you to everyone sending in questions for Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. He's going to be joining us at the top of the second hour, 7 o'clock. So if you have questions, and just because we're doing it Zoom, he's going to be calling in live from Albany or Zooming in from Albany. If you have any questions, please get them to me ahead of time. It's kind of difficult to be able to handle both the Zoom and taking questions in real time. All right, I know we've talked, and I think there's a concern. Sometimes the Republicans, in this case, have gotten kind of, for lack of a better term, fat and happy, right? They had the House, they had the Senate, and the White House, and so they kind of stopped caring as much because they let them take care of it, or they're upset that they haven't done enough. The Republicans haven't done enough after they supported them, so there could be a lack of drive to go out and vote. But there's also been this idea coming from the right that, this whole woke culture is dead. That got defeated when Trump won. It got defeated when you see businesses and companies. For instance, there's a report this morning that less companies were putting out Pride merchandise for children. But just when you think woke is done, and we've said it a lot of times on this program that it is not. It is clearly not. But here's a prime example. A church, albeit a liberal church, in Nantucket, has decided to cancel its 4th of July readings for the first time in 25 years. Why? Why is that church doing that? For political protest over the Supreme Court's voting rights ruling and its congregants' quote, whiteness. The Nantucket Unitarian Universalists has read the Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights inside its church every 4th of July for at least 25 years. This year, the church's Board of Trustees and presiding Reverend Aaron Splain published a letter announcing the cancellation of the readings just 1 month before America's 250th birthday. The church blamed the revision, on the Supreme Court's gutting, as they put it, of the 1965 Voting Rights Act and, quote, an ongoing process within the congregation to better understand our own whiteness. The self-proclaimed liberal and free faith leaders claim that white people know the rights laid out in the America's foundational text have for centuries, this is a quote, been tragically, often violently, and unequally applied against non-white citizens. A celebration without context and the centering of the fullness of our American story only perpetrates the harm, injustice, and anti-democratic process. Splain, who is a self-avowed lesbian preacher, said that she will be at the church on Independence Day morning should anyone want to talk or engage further. That would sound like a fun conversation, wouldn't it? St. Paul's Episcopal Church of Nantucket will fill the void and host its own reading of the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. Quote, those documents are aspirational. We may not be there yet, but we felt it was important to gather together and try to live up to the promises our country has made, said St. Paul Reverend Max Wolf. Amy Riley, a resident of the island, highlighted the church's cowardice, saying canceling the reading risks becoming an empty gesture. It may signal virtue, but it does not teach history. It does not bring people into deeper conversation. It does not honor the abolitionists, reformers, veterans, civil rights leaders, immigrants, teachers, parents, and ordinary citizens who spent the last 250 years trying to make this country more just. The Declaration of Independence should not be treated as a fragile symbol that can only be celebrated without criticism. It is strong enough to be questioned, it is important enough to be taught, and on Nantucket of all places, it deserves to be read out loud. What's this radicalization, folks? Well, how about this? And thank heavens something is being done here. The Secret Service is investigating a viral video of a nurse appearing to show her saying she wanted to drive to Washington, D.C. and take a knife to President Donald Trump's throat. In a video shared Sunday by Right Angle News Network, a woman identified as Rhonda Lee said, quote, please kill this blanker. He needs to blanking die. I've never felt, and this is a prayer, because that's a new thing. James Carville was doing it recently too. She was praying to God that he would please kill this blanker. He needs to blank and die. I've never felt, like that about anyone. Lee worked at University of Michigan Medical Center beginning in March of 2000, but has not been employed there since 2023. Continued, given my profession, it's counterintuitive, but you know what? Blank that guy. He blanking needs to die. Lee added, I have never been a violent person, but I'm about to drive up there with my blanking knife, my neck knife, what's a neck knife, and give that blanker a smiley face across his blanking neck. Blank, blank, blankety blank. In a statement to Fox News Digital, Anthony Guglielmi, Chief of Communications for the United States Secret Service, said the U.S. Secret Service continuously monitors information streaming to support our protective intelligence mission. Due to the sensitive nature of this work, we are unable to confirm or comment on specific threat cases. However, anything that could be perceived as a threat to the president or any Secret Service protectee is taken extremely seriously and investigated thoroughly. In a statement, Mary Mason, Senior Director of Public Relations at Michigan Medicine, said Lee has not worked there since 2023. We are cooperating with law enforcement to provide any information helpful to their investigation. Wow, people are insane. And it's happened so, isn't it wild? It's happened so much in like the nursing field and health field. Obviously, we've seen it in the education field as well. White House spokesman Davis Ingalls said anyone who engages in or endorses political violence or assassination culture must be condemned in the harshest terms possible. They should also immediately seek psychiatric help to treat their severe and debilitating case of Trump derangement syndrome that has warped their brains and made them sick in the head. Okay, so yesterday it is being reported, take it with a grain of salt, that, because it's coming from far left Axios, that President Trump, a lot of Me covering up cuss words this morning. President Trump was not necessarily happy with Benjamin Netanyahu over the Hezbollah strikes in what has been described as an expletive-laden phone call. The tense call came after Iran threatened to withdraw from that ceasefire negotiations with the U.S. after Israel ordered peace negotiations after Israel ordered strikes on terrorists in southern Beirut, with Axios reporting the president at one point asking, "What the blank are you doing? You're blanking crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your blank. Everybody hates you now. Everybody hates Israel because of this." He told, this is, again, being reported by Axios. So when I say take it with a grain of salt, I mean take it with a lot of grains of salt. Another source described Trump as mad and claimed the president steamrolled the Israeli prime minister on the call. BBC said, okay, just make sure everything is taken care of. The president was reportedly aware Hezbollah had been firing on Israeli troops, but concerned that Netanyahu was disproportionately escalating the situation and potentially hurting U.S. negotiations with Tehran. Now, Trump took to Truth Social after this was reported and said, "I had a very productive call with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, and there'll be no troops going to Beirut. And any troops that are on their way have already been turned back. Likewise, through highly placed representatives, I had a very good call with Hezbollah, and they agreed that all shooting will stop, that Israel will not attack them, and they will not attack Israel." Meanwhile, Netanyahu said, "Tonight I spoke with President Trump and told him that if Hezbollah does not cease attacking our citizens and our cities, Israel will attack terror targets in Beirut. The stance of ours remains unchanged. In parallel, the IDF will continue to operate as planned in southern Lebanon." So there's a quick update, but we got to take a break. You heard the corning whistle. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Go to your local library, create with the 3D printer, release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine rentals, all with your library card. Go to your local library today.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Good morning, Mark. How are you? So if you make it a prayer to threaten someone like Trump, it's not a crime? That's bogus. No, maybe I worded it strange. That's not the case at all. It's definitely being investigated by the Secret Service. But that just seems to be a new trend. James Carville did it. He asked God to bring more hatred to him for Trump. This woman, this nurse, asking God to take out the president. Yeah, it's a very strange trend. Okay, comment from a different viewer. I wonder how many people have noticed that just how determined the Democrats are in their efforts to make President Trump look bad. The latest petty point of contention is related to the making of standard time permanent. But if you can believe it, there are those people who think that daylight savings time should be permanent instead. Will these crybabies ever stop? Well, I haven't seen that reaction, but what's interesting about that, sorry, my chair was sinking, it goes to prove that point that no matter what side of position Trump's on, the other side will completely be, against it. We've seen it, and Trump said it himself at rallies that if he cured cancer, they'd say he was destroying the pharmaceutical industry, that kind of thing. Okay, Trump said yesterday that Iran deal could be reached over the next week after what he called fixing the Israeli Hezbollah glitch. He said, looking good, looking good. There was a little glitch today, but I turned that one around very quickly, as you probably noticed earlier. So I spoke with Hezbollah and I said no shooting, and I talked with Bibi, Benjamin Netanyahu, and said no shooting, and they both stopped shooting each other. So we could be looking at a week. He says that the talks will continue and announced Israel and Lebanon's ceasefire. I had a productive call with Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, and there will be no troops going to Beirut. Any troops there on their way have already been turned back, as I mentioned. Okay. Now, we haven't really talked much about this, and do I want to get into this? Because, again, let me just make the public service announcement. Former Congressman, current New York State Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski will be joining us live in the 7 o'clock hour, live from Albany. So what that means is I can't ask the questions like I normally do, because we know we get a lot of live questions for Joe during our in-studio broadcast. So if you wouldn't mind, I should say, please send in your questions ahead of time. I would really appreciate it. Okay, boy, a lot of people have been talking about these protests and riots happening at New Jersey's Delaney Hall Immigration Detention Center. Well, the tent, the anti-ICE tent outside of the protests, was raided by federal authorities yesterday, exposing what activists were keeping inside as mayhem continues to plague the area. Eye-catching photos reveal cases of seltzers, puzzles and games, plush toys, books, assorted signs stuffed into boxes or scattered around the Eyes of Ice mutual aid tent outside the Newark Detention Center. Planters with wilting flowers were abandoned on folding tables. Other boxes were overflowing with hand warmers and blankets, while some unused posters reflected Catholic imagery and references to the Virgin Mary. Kathy O'Leary, president of the coalition, said her team is one of the few groups helping people reach detainees as detention centers impose more stringent visitation rules in response to the disastrous and violent protests. The facility has never given accurate or complete information to the families about how things work. People are not going to want to do it. They're not going to be comfortable with it, meaning being escorted to the visitation centers. Yeah, it looks like they don't have it too bad there at the tent. One anti-ICE protester drove all the way from Portland to be arrested during the violent Delaney Hall clashes. Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin made the revelation on Monday, saying that hooligans from as far away as Portland, Oregon, have wreaked havoc outside the Newark facility. 21 protesters were arrested for allegedly assaulting federal officers outside Delaney Hall between May 26th and May 29th. At least another 20 were arrested on Sunday alone. Mullin praised the New Jersey State Police after the state reluctantly dispatched officers to help the feds rein in the unruly mob after a week of anarchy. Quote, "We see over and over again in these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states where law enforcement officers, they want to do their job. That's why they signed up to do their job. So often you have radical left leadership that doesn't allow them to do so. But when they did show up at Delaney Hall, they quickly realized that they aren't peaceful protesters that the radical left politicians were telling you about." Mullin called the protesters well organized and well supplied. Okay, we may talk a little bit more about that. We have one more break in this hour, then we're going to prepare for Joe Sempolinski, so get those questions in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Your Social Security disability claim has been denied, and you don't understand why. Your physical or emotional problems make it impossible for you to work. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. Don't give up. Together, we'll file your appeal to give you the best chance to win the benefits you deserve.
For a free consultation, call Lockman & Gorton, toll free 1-800-698-0567.
Time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Our main weather influencer continues to be high pressure, keeping things comfortable and clear out there. Some nice sunshine for our Tuesday, a high of 73, and relatively light winds out of the north. As we head into the overnight hours, a lack of cloud cover will send temperatures into the mid to upper 40s. Then we find ourselves back in some upper 70s on Wednesday with some nice sunshine. The warming trend has mid 80s starting Thursday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. As mentioned, we are going to have Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski here in just a little bit as we wrap up hour number one. I apologize, I missed some of your comments. I had to run and freshen my tea. So, anti-ICE agitator who allegedly bit an officer during Delaney Hall protest, who allegedly bit the officer, has previously been accused of distributing child pornography. The New Jersey U.S. Attorney's Office charged Brendan John Gear, 26, with assaulting federal officers and causing bodily injury for allegedly kicking and biting ICE officers outside the Newark Detention Center, leaving them with horrific wounds. Okay. David Marcus says the 5 blatant lies that Democrats are telling you about Delaney Hall and ICE. Number 1, that conditions at Delaney Hall are horrible. The first lie, the one that launched the ship of Antifa agitators, is that conditions in Delaney Hall are inhumane, a charge for which the public has yet to see an iota of real evidence. We were told the food was inedible, but when Fox News obtained the menu for the facility, it looked better than the grub at most sleepaway camps. Several Democratic elected officials have inspected the site now, and if it really is the Garden State variety of Hanoi Hilton, I think they would have said more than just "we heard reports of disturbing conditions." The bottom line is that this claim is thus far baseless. 2, they lie by saying ICE wants confrontation. Perhaps the worst of these lies, because it's a direct smear on law enforcement, is the absurd idea floated by Governor Mickey Sherrill that ICE and its agents actually wanted to be attacked by agitators to use it as a pretext for a larger presence in Newark. This farcical claim doesn't make a wooden nickel's worth of sense. Does Sherrill think that the agents want to be bitten? To her minimal credit, given how obvious it is, the governor has now acknowledged that out-of-state agitators are the ones causing mayhem. Because of that, Sherrill is taking heat from the left for telling the plain, basic truth. The third lie. New Jersey State Police were deployed to protect protesters from ICE. This brings us to the fabulous assertion that state police were finally called in to protect the protesters from the ICE agents, not the other way around. This is totally through the looking glass. It is the agitators who are invading the space of the agents, goading them with racial slurs and collecting bricks. The only thing thus far has been help to quell the violent nocturnes is the cooperation of state police and ICE. Number 4, DHS backed down on visitation. What they aren't mentioning, but what DHS has made clear, is the only reason visitation was suspended in the first place was because of the violent and unhinged agitators. This is obviously an attempt to save face after needlessly causing a week of chaos. And finally, Delaney Hall is proof ICE must be abolished. Notice that these Democrats never offer a supposedly more humane way to enforce the democratically enacted federal laws on immigration. And it is increasingly clear that their desire to simply not to enforce them at all. Frustrating though it is, it's important that we pay attention to these lies from the left as they go whizzing by, because in a few years' time, they will repeat them as absolute fact, and most archived media outlets will back up what they said. If you see one of these lies in the wild, you will call it out. Do not let it stand, because this is the only way we can ever get the truth back. It seems like Democrats will continue their lying, but there is no reason you have to believe them. David Marcus. All right, we are out of time. We've got Joe Sempolinski coming up in just a little bit. Stay with us.
It's the home of activity. Release your inner audio engineer. Create with the 3D printer. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to your local library today.
Spring Value Days are here, and our prices are lower than ever. Stop by your neighborhood Value Home Centers and spring into savings. Buy one, get one free on all gallons of Valspar Integrity Select Paint and Primer, interior or exterior, starting at just $39.96 for 2 gallons. Available in flat, satin, or semi-gloss. This spring, come to Value, your hometown home center.
Value for the do-it-yourselfer. In you.
Let me ask you, does it matter if the law firm you hire focuses on motor vehicle accidents? Has the experience to take on big insurance? Will go to court to win? Has won over $1 billion for their clients? If that matters to you, come to William Mattar. We are the largest motor vehicle accident firm in the state. Call William Mattar for the recovery you deserve. Hurt in a car, hit.
Go over.
Okay.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day 1 of the National Glider Competition.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
When a child is fighting a critical illness, one truth touches us all. Every child deserves a childhood. A wish sparks a ripple of hope that transforms communities far and wide. And when we grant wishes together, we create a movement of kindness, strength, and unity. Become a wishmaker today and be part of a journey that truly changes lives.
Today's students are tomorrow's great thinkers and innovators.
What can this ball teach us about the way things move?
But right now, millions of kids go to schools that don't have the supplies they need just because of where they live. Donors Choose is a nonprofit that lets you support students and teachers in your community and beyond. You could supply a classroom like this one with a project. But what you're really giving is the moment that sparks a brighter tomorrow. Learn more at donorschoose.org.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Our main weather influencer continues to be high pressure, keeping things comfortable and clear out there. Some nice sunshine for our Tuesday, a high of 73, and relatively light winds out of the north. As we head into the overnight hours, a lack of cloud cover will send temperatures into the mid to upper 40s. Then we find ourselves back in some upper 70s on Wednesday with some nice sunshine. The warming trend has mid 80s starting Thursday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. In that Zoom studio, we have Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. Good morning, Joe.
Yeah, I am not in the palatial Hesselson studios. Usually I try to come to Corning and be there in person, but you're coming from Albany, New York, the capital of the Empire State, and you can see my hotel room.
Beautiful hotel room. It sounds like you have a very busy week this week, but let's first kind of do a recap, if you don't mind, because of what was it, 58 days without a budget? Tell us.
56.
Was it 56? 56? So tell us what your thoughts were when the whole process began.
Well, we got the worst of both worlds. We got a late budget and a bad budget. So you'd like to get either a good late budget or I guess in theory an on-time bad budget would be better than what we had. But it's a situation where we waited a long time. There was a lot of angst and consternation and confusion. We actually, we ended up passing what the funding levels were for schools the day after they did their school board elections, which is
horrible timing.
Just very New York how we did it. But it was extraordinarily expensive budget. We ended up about $14 billion dollars more than the previous year. And so since the Democrats took universal control of the state government in 2019, we've had exponential increases in how much we're spending, and that just sort of continued this year. So that was very frustrating. There was some policy in there that was problematic. Basically, the one that got the most attention, to give you an example, is that they legislated banning local law enforcement from helping enforce immigration policy.
Right.
And I said during the debate, if their concern is that immigration policy is being enforced unfairly, is being enforced in a way where you're getting the wrong guy, or it's too aggressive, or there's some possibility of some sort of tragic accident or what have you, the way to avoid that is to have local law enforcement involved.
Right.
And they did the exact opposite. And I think what it comes down to is there are certain elements of the Democratic Party that simply don't want immigration law to be enforced, period. They just want that portion of the law to be ignored. And what I said is I want immigration law enforced fairly. I want it enforced responsibly. I want it, obviously, to prioritize, the worst actors.
Right.
But the way to do that is have local sheriffs and local police chiefs involved, not cut them out. Another thing that angered me was there was slipped into the budget a $800 million slush fund.
Yes.
That just went to cities that Democrats wanted to just hand money to.
Sure.
And where this came from was they wanted to bail out. So Ron Mondani in New York City, they realized they didn't have enough votes because upstate Democrats were like, well, what about me? So the example I used on the floor was City of Buffalo got $55 million. Just,
wow.
Here you go. And who pays for that when all the irresponsible cities in the state just get handed big wads of cash? But everybody else pays for it. So my constituents are paying for that.
Right.
And I said, well, wait a minute. If you did it proportionally, if Buffalo gets $55 million, then Olean should get $2.7 million. I did the math on how many constituents are. I said, well, where's the form they fill out, to apply? And of course, there's not.
There isn't
a program.
No.
There's no.
Much like matching funds, there are no forms for that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, actually, now that was a win. We did win on,
I know.
On having to get to that. But so this is the sort of thing where if you're in with the in crowd as far as the Democratic Party, they just hand you a wad of cash, no matter how irresponsible the management of your city has been over the last years or decades.
Right.
And everybody else that's been acting responsibly pays for it. And so what was frustrating about that is obviously it advantaged Democratic portions of the state, but not, it wasn't like every Democrat portion of the state got money. It was just the big urban centers. So it was unfair, even if you're being, it was unfair even within their unfairness.
Only New York, only Albany.
Yeah. So I voted no on all 10 bills. The budget is made up of 10 bills. They do different things. One's a debt bill. One is appropriations for the legislative branch and the judiciary. 3 of them, other ones are sort of literally lining out number by number what gets paid. And the remaining are what are called Article 7 bills, which is supposed to be policy that's directly tied to the appropriations. Like, oh, we're going to spend this money over here, but we're going to change the law on how we spend it, or some new program or what have you.
Sure.
And they use that to just put other policies in the budget, which has some constitutional problems. It's supposed to be tied to a direct appropriation in some way, the way the state constitutions are written. Anyway, I voted no on all 10 of them.
Yeah.
Because again, the overall level of spending was ridiculous, and in each bill, you could point to some other things that I would find problematic, and the entire process was
a mess.
As expected, messed up from the beginning, both time-wise, and of course, everybody gets mad on both sides of the aisle about how exclusive it is at the end, where it's these 3 people in a room making decisions.
Well, it makes it, and the media likes to make everything about themselves. So let me talk about me and the media for a minute.
Okay.
It's very frustrating because you can't even report on it when the news first breaks, because you don't, just like you as a person voting, really don't know what's in it because it comes to you at the last minute.
And then, of course, you have the problem of the governor just lies and says it's done.
Yeah, 2 weeks in advance.
Just makes that up, and then it's not done for weeks.
Right.
After
yeah.
that.
How embarrassing is that? And it just kind of just went by the wayside. I want to see that hit on more, because that is awkward. She's got to stop doing this awkward.
Yeah, and the way I describe it to people is, so last year she sort of got away with it.
Right.
It was about a week later, and they really were sort of close. And I, for those football fans out there, it was like a tush push.
Yeah,
We're
right.
at the 1 yard line. We just all line up and shove it across.
Yeah.
And I think she tried to do a tush push from like the 10. And
Yeah.
you don't end up scoring a touchdown. You end up going 2 yards and falling on your face.
And embarrassing yourself. Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what she like, well, if it worked last year, it worked this year. And they weren't quite as close as they were, I guess, at the time that she pulled that last year. But it drives everybody nuts.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, even the other two people in the room.
I know.
Because
Carl Hasty was not happy.
if I was negotiating, Carl, I was in the chamber. Carl comes storming through, and usually he's a pretty calm guy. Like he's got a good poker face. You can't sort of read him, and he comes. I'm like, oh, he's mad, and basically immediately said the governor is, full of it. Now, he did say, oh, we're never doing this again. Like we're never doing policy before money. I'll believe that when I see it. I think
it's easy to say that now, right?
And he's not. Let's just say, speakers. I don't anticipate major reforms coming out. Let's put it that way.
Right, and it's so easy to say that now because nothing's going to come up a year from now when you're still dealing with it. But it was definitely interesting to watch. Now this week is kind of the end, right? This is when you're trying to rush through everything in Albany. Is that how this goes?
Yeah, so the way the session is supposed to work is we're in session regularly the first half of the year. And we're usually home, for the summer, dealing with constituent issues and all the work that happens being in the district. And then the fall is sort of a mix where you're home a lot, but they'll start to have hearings to prepare for the next session, to get the nomenclature right.
Sure.
If you're on a committee and you have a meeting, that means you're considering bills, and we're voting whether to advance those bills to the broader chamber. If you're having a hearing, it's a public event where people can watch and testify, and you're doing fact finding on some particular issue in order to craft legislation. We tend to do a lot of that in the fall. But the way it's supposed to work during the legislative session is the first half is supposed to be either cleaning up bills from last year in the sense that they need to be tweaked.
Sure.
Those are called chapter amendments, or we do the budget. And then the second half legislative session is supposed to be everything that's not budget related, that's substantive. And so we have 1 week after the budget, and so they're trying to just ram bills through, dozens upon dozens, hundreds upon hundreds, and so we're sort of stuck in the chamber all day, every day this week, which makes you go stir crazy, voting on bill after bill, debating bill after bill, and everybody gets a little punchy. But there's a couple things to bear in mind about that. One, you might ask, well, why don't they just stay in session longer?
Right.
And if it was an odd numbered year, I think that they would. Just as we did last year, we extended the session another week and kept going. Most people who are in the legislature are from New York City, or a big chunk of them.
Right.
And in most of their districts, the general election is not particularly competitive. They care about the primary. So there's a lot of people that have a primary opponent that's run around neighborhoods in New York City knocking on doors, and they're stuck up here. So they want to get home.
Yeah.
So there's no appetite from the Democrats to extend session. Now, there's a silver lining to that. Because if session has a firm end, the people that control how fast bills move on the floor are the minority party. Because we decide, the Republicans, whether we allow an immediate vote on a bill or whether we want to lay it aside to debate it. Now, if we lay a bill aside, they might bring it right up immediately. We had one of those last night where I led the debate on a bill. We had laid it aside when it came out of committee and they immediately said, no, that's our priority. We want to vote on it now. But they only do one at a time.
Right.
So there may be hundreds of bad ideas that don't pass simply because they run out of clock and are all desperate to get back to New York City to avoid being taken out by Zohran Mamdani 2.0.
Right, the DSA candidate. And that's quite a time frame because if the end of this week they get home, they're starting really late in the campaign season. I mean, the primaries are June 23rd.
Yep, which is why there's no appetite to extend session. There's always rumors because the governor can call us back after. We can come back into session at any time. But I would say possible, but not necessarily likely.
Right. Is there anything specific that you're watching for this week? Anything that you're hearing?
Yeah, the big one we had a big press conference yesterday. I was with Congressman Lawler, came up, and the bill dropped late last night, the text. So I think we'll probably vote on it Thursday, unless they do a measure of necessity, in which case, it could be in a couple hours here. is a constitutional amendment to just blatantly allow gerrymandering in the state of New York.
As if there wasn't already gerrymandering in the state of New York anyway.
But. Well, that's the thing. There isn't. We have it banned in the state constitution. So they want to gut that. The people of the state, because the way we do constitutional amendments, we have a referendum at the end. So the people put in the Constitution in 2014 that we're not going to have gerrymandering.
Right.
And then ever since then, the Democrats have been trying to undo it. They put an amendment before the public in 2021 to gut that protection. The people rejected it 2-1 in a Democrat state.
Yeah.
They drew a map that got thrown out as a gerrymander by courts, starting here, I say here, where you are, in Steuben County.
Right.
But upheld at multiple levels of appellate court. They tried to gerrymander the state in 2022. Remember, because they're going to stand on the floor of the Assembly and the Senate and say this is all about Donald Trump, it's all about Texas, it's all about Florida. They started this. Donald Trump did not start this.
Exactly.
The Democrats in New York started it. They attempted to gerrymander and change the rules in 21. They drew a gerrymander that got drawn out by their own judges. They changed the judges. In 22, Joe Biden was president.
Right.
And in 24, they did a mid-cycle redistricting. They changed the lines. They picked up 4 seats.
Right.
2 in Nassau County, 1 in Syracuse, 1 in the Hudson Valley. They did everything that they're mad about Texas. They're mad about Florida. And was infuriating.
Yeah.
Yesterday we had a press conference about this. And of course the press are all about the narrative of Trump, Trump, Trump.
Of course.
And they said, wait a minute, isn't this just a response to Trump? And we said, no, wait a minute. They started this before Trump was president, twice. And they said, well, they didn't do a mid-cycle redistricting. Well, yes, they did. Like literally, the press corps is supposed to be covering this. Memory holds the fact that the Democrats pick up 4 seats in the U.S. House. Right. 2 years ago, literally last cycle, because they did a mid-cycle redistricting.
Right.
And so now they're going to say the legislature can redraw the maps whenever they want. They're going to effectively take all the teeth out of the Independent Redistricting Commission, and they will try to obliterate as many Republican House seats in the state of New York in not this cycle, but in 2028.
Right.
Excuse me.
They've been just looking for that excuse. I mean, this is just a perfect
positive
excuse.
is in 27, this will be on the ballot if it passes twice. It has to pass, presumably this week. It has to be an intervening election, which is why they can't do it for this cycle. And then they'll pass it again at the beginning of 27. Goes on the ballot as a referendum in 27. And everybody listening to me, everybody in the state will get a chance to vote on this. And the people of the state put anti-gerrymandering language in the Constitution 12 years ago and rejected weakening that anti-gerrymandering language 5 years ago. So we're going to have an epic referendum battle in the state of New York. It will be the biggest issue for the next year and a half by far in the state of New York.
What is up on 2027 though? There's not. That's almost going to be a standalone with local races, isn't that?
Correct. Yeah. Well, and remember, there's far fewer local races than there were.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Most most town and county races are moving to even numbered years.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be fewer. It will be the thing that we're voting on next year. There'll be some local races. For instance, in Steuben County, there'll be a judge race and DA's up and county clerks up.
But I mean, the voting drive is going to be the important thing to get the message out.
This will be the top. This will be the number one thing. I anticipate all the money being thrown in on both sides.
Sure.
Especially if this year's midterms leave the House of Representatives again within 1 or 2 seats either way.
Right.
This may be determinative, and so anticipate the only thing politically being talked about in New York for the next year and a half is, will the Democrats get a chance to knock out 3, 4, 5 Republican House members?
Right. And we had touched on it quickly as I made a joke about the missing forms or the non-existent form, but that was a great decision in favor of Bruce Blakeman. No matter what you think about matching funds, put that aside. I've done my disclaimer a million times. I'm not for it, but that's the rules of the game. And Bruce Blakeman did it.
And if you're going to have them, they have to be distributed fairly. And so remember what happened there was Bruce was denied up to $3.5 million for his campaign because he didn't correctly fill out a form that they hadn't created. There was a statutory change in how the lieutenant governor and governor candidates were paired. They used to be more independent. Now they're more definitively paired. And they hadn't adjusted the form. And so they were directed by statute to create that form. They didn't create it. He filled out the old form. And they said, oh, you messed up.
Yep.
And sued. And actually, I know the lawyer that handled it. He's a guy that does things for our Republican conference, the Assembly, great guy. And they won at the trial level, and then they had an appeal to the appellate division. There's 3 layers of courts in the state of New York. The middle layer said 5-0. It wasn't a split decision.
Right.
5-0 that Mr. Blakeman gets a chance to fill out. You got to get hand on the form, let him fill it out, and of course it's like a 1-page form.
Right. It's not even
some major extensive document. So it looks like he will receive those funds, and the courts did the right thing for once.
Do you think the Democrats on the commission will appeal one more final time, or have you heard
I think
anything?
it's possible. They already appealed once.
I was shocked they appealed once. I thought they could take the loss, knowing that, again, we were lectured that the whole reason we the taxpayer have to pay for matching funds is to make the little guy have a chance against a big bad incumbent. And so when that actually presents itself, because the DNR don't sit in the way they want it, now they take away. So I thought they'd at least step back and say, yeah, we did look biased there, we won't appeal. So for them to appeal the first time, I would be kind of shocked if they don't the second time.
Yeah, it's possible. The 5-0 helps.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not a expert on appellate procedure, but my understanding is appealing becomes a lot more automatic when there's a dissenting opinion. And in this case, there was not. It was 5-0, so there's a possibility that this may be the end. But I was hoping the last one would be the end.
Right. And it's just such a waste of time when Blakeman has other focuses. Which, by the way, I know I text you. I think Blakeman's more popular than I thought. So
I think I was just texting with his campaign manager yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was saying to him that I felt that there was growing momentum in the Southern Tier for him, and I'm looking forward to working with him on Southern Tier issues, especially energy issues. I think we're going to see more of that. Talking about natural gas exploration and that sort of thing. So
I was just saying it so I could pat myself on the back, Joe. That I got.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, you got 7 billion views on the video.
I didn't even announce this on the show. Yeah, he shared
you
our
haven't
video.
told these people yet?
No, he shared the video.
Viral, the Bruce
I hit it for
he
this one.
posted. It's what Frank's talking about.
Yeah.
To the people, talk directly to the people. Is he posted his video interviewing Blakeman, and he got like 1 million views.
5 million views, Joe.
5 million.
That's why.
That's more than my videos get a couple thousand.
Yeah.
5 million.
I would have taken a couple thousand. I had no idea that would hit 5. It's actually kind of scary. But
that's good. That's good.
Well, I also think
I think the enthusiasm for Bruce is growing. I'm behind Bruce 100%. We got a choice between Kathy Hochul and Bruce Blakeman. That's an easy choice.
Right. And what I liked about specifically the one that he shared when I did the interview, it's because it was just a clip telling everybody what his positions are. So if 5 million people watch that, that's a good thing for Bruce Blakeman.
That's right, and that's what you need to do to sort of cut through this. Where if you're somebody who's a moderate Democrat in New York City who doesn't like a communist running your city, the way to deal with that is elect a Republican governor.
Yeah, and so I'm excited to see more from him, and I think it is good that he got the matching funds. But everything I've seen, I know he's been getting some endorsements lately. He is running a tough campaign. It's going to be difficult when Kathy Hochul has 20 million on hand, but at least he's going in there fighting.
Yeah, I mean, Kathy's got a lot of money. She's a sitting governor, but she's a bad sitting governor.
Right.
And I think that, like I said, the way you need to make it work is you need people to be enthused in the base, upstate.
Right.
But you also need to win common sense Democrats and independents downstate. And that's how you make the math work in New York.
So, Joe, the hard-hitting question that I don't think I've ever asked you on this program, what do you think of Spencer Pratt?
I hope he's next mayor of Los Angeles, which if you had
did you imagine
saying that 5 years ago? What was he on the hills or whatever it was? This amazing, a reality TV star. Turns out to be a great candidate.
Yeah, it's impossible.
I don't know if we've ever seen that before.
No.
He's running a great campaign.
He really is.
And he's being very innovative, and I think it's one of these things where everybody knows when you have a fire and you can't build houses back for years.
Yeah.
And there's crime and poop in the streets and what have you. Something's gone wrong.
Right.
and it's tough to defend the existing establishment running that city when it's so obviously messed up.
Right.
And so you have somebody who can communicate that in a good way.
And the earned media that he's received.
If I was in LA,
yeah,
I've only ever been to Los Angeles once in my life.
Yeah.
I had a long plane layover.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
right. But if I was a resident of the city of Angels, I would vote for Mr. Pratt.
I would too. It's been just fascinating. As someone that didn't even want to follow it necessarily, it's all over your social media. It's all over the news, not just conservative outlets. He's just getting that attention that I think every candidate dreams of, that kind of earned media.
Well, like I said, he's talking about, common sense issues in the sense of, the basic functions of government. That, recovering from a disaster or public health or public safety.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that are not particularly partisan or ideological based on, and that's good for a mayor.
Yeah.
Mayor's job is to run the city.
Perfect.
Make sure things work.
Yeah.
And that's what he's talking about.
Now, on the other side of that coin, not a good candidate, one Mr. Graham Plantner.
Oh boy, this guy. And every single Democrat
mm-hmm.
running in the United States
mm-hmm.
should be asked about this guy.
Yeah, just like
relentlessly.
Like on the other
they
side.
shouldn't be able to go anywhere on their campaign, talk to anyone
mm-hmm.
without saying have to be answer their question of whether they think this guy should be the next senator from Maine. Had a Nazi tattoo.
That was his earliest scandal.
Of Democrats calling Republicans, Nazis, and then they're supporting the guy who literally had a Nazi tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, apparently, rampantly betraying his new wife.
Right.
So this guy's just a total scumbag.
Yeah.
And he's running against the most, by far,
yes,
the most liberal Republican federal elected official.
Yes. Now,
Susan Collins is more liberal than every other Republican in the U.S. Senate. She's more liberal than every Republican in the House.
Right.
If you're a Democrat and you want to say how a Republican should vote, and I'm not saying I agree with Susan Collins on all her votes, because I don't. There's a lot of things I disagree with Susan Collins. I think she's too liberal. I'm much more conservative than she is.
Mm-hmm.
But if somehow she's some sort of existential threat that you can't bring yourself to support, and these people are supporting, a guy with an SS tattoo.
I know. Did you see that?
The only thing that unifies the Democratic Party, the only thing the Democratic Party is about is power.
Mm-hmm.
Period. That's it. They're frauds.
Right.
They are a fake political organization that is purely about power. And the only good thing about this psycho running for Senate in Maine is he's showing that to the whole world.
Get this, Barbara Boxer, and I'm paraphrasing here, Barbara Boxer essentially said that because Susan Collins has voted with Trump, that's more offensive than Graham Plantner.
And frankly, she's voted with Trump less than anyone that's a Republican in elected
yes.
office at the level. Like I said, I am much more conservative than Susan Collins.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with Susan Collins on a lot of things.
Yes.
But if you're a Democrat elected official and you say, we got to support, you got to support this guy, you're a complete hypocrite, and you're completely about power, and you're about nothing else, and you have no values.
Yes, totally agree.
This guy is worse than anything they've even accused Donald Trump.
I know. So are you going to the UFC fight on the White House lawn?
Oh, on the White House lawn.
Yeah.
I think this whole thing about
I love America 250. I love it.
We're gonna have the IndyCar race.
Yeah.
Through the Capitol. Not through the Capitol, but through the capital city.
Right.
And we're gonna have UFC, and we're gonna get a new ballroom. Which, by the way, I've been to events at the White House. They desperately needed a large event space, so that's a good innovation. The fountains are working at Union Station.
Right.
I saw, which I went to college in Washington D.C. Those fountains, some shady folks hanging around there. So the fact that it turned out all you needed to do was call a pool guy for the
right.
and save $15 million or whatever it was.
Right.
I think there's wonderful renovations happening in our nation's capital.
And I love this America 250. And I know the media is trying to, this guy canceled on the performance or this person. Listen, the UFC, here's my only question. Will you have to watch UFC, which you normally have to pay good money pay-per-view? Can you watch it on C-SPAN?
Oh, that's it. That's a government event now.
Yeah, right?
But I mean, if it's like, Kirsten Gillibrand fights Ted Cruz.
Right, maybe then they can do it. Well, I know we got to go here, Joe, because it's a Zoom a little bit more restricted than normal. How's everything going at the local level?
So locally, obviously the primaries are coming up. On the Republican side, we just have a couple of very local town primaries: Campbell, Town of Corning, Irwin, Lindley, and Rathbone. If you're in those towns in Spin County, there's a primary. Obviously, there's primaries going on in other counties. Chemung County is a countywide primary. The Democrats, congressional primary in the 23rd, congressional primary in the 24th, and a statewide primary. They're the controller. The controller has multiple primary opponents. So that's what's going on primary locally. Again, in Steuben County, very quiet primary season. No state, county, or federal primaries. Just some local ones.
All right, Joe. I guess who I have on the program Thursday? Saritha.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. I mean, she's running against an attorney general that has, defined, sort of lawfare. And so I really hope Saritha wins the attorney general's race.
Me too. Well, Joe, thanks for giving us so much time. Have fun this week. Enjoy it. Take it all in.
It's unlikely. I'd rather be there with you.
I know it. We'll have you on before the primary. Before the primary, we'll have you on, Joe. Thanks for giving us so much time, buddy.
All right. Thanks. Have a good one.
All right. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Dear Savvy, who says you can't have it all? You've got the tech. You've got the drive. And now you've got Toyota value. Lease the tech-savvy Corolla with 0 down or the all-hybrid Camry with 0 down and first month's payment due at signing. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places.
Can you help me?
Mom, Dad, we're going out.
Thank you.
Oh, look, they're playing chess.
What you got there?
Will you help my mom?
She's real sick, huh? Hey, crew, I'll give the first move to anyone who signs up to be an organ donor. How do you do it?
Easy. Just go to organdonor.gov.
You heard him, organdonor.gov.
More donors means more hope. Sign up at organdonor.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. We got some viewer comments to catch up on. I think I missed a couple of them, but we do want to thank Joe Sepolinski for being on the program this morning, zooming in, I should say, live from Albany, as this is the end of session this week. And as I said, we'll book him, we'll get twice in 1 month because we're going to have him on before the primaries to wear his hat for chairman of the Steuben County Republican Party. So that will be before June 23rd, and I'll keep you updated. On tomorrow's broadcast, we'll be talking with Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard. We always look forward to that. Get your questions in. And as I mentioned with Joe Thursday, Saritha coming already. She is running for Attorney General. And so that will be a fun one. Get your questions in. All right, let's go to some viewer comments, shall we? Good sunny morning. Well, good sunny morning to you too. You're in office to do what the people in your district want, not what a Republican or not what or a Democrat wants. It's a fair point. It's about representing your constituents. Okay, comment from a different viewer. Oops. Over the summer, and I got to wave. Over the summer when he's off, you should have the Frank and Joe show. He's so informative, and you always ask great questions. We always have fun. Zoom isn't quite as much personal back and forth, but I do appreciate it. And it was such a breaking story coming from Albany. Obviously, with the end of session, that I was glad that he could take a moment to update us on the budget as well as what's going on in New York State. So I do appreciate that. Comment from Ken. Since I know that President Trump listens to the fastest growing, most informative political talk show in America, frankly speaking, I will give him some advice through your show. Okay, that seems fair. So President Trump, who is clearly can't be wrong, that President Trump is clearly watching. You should use the left's TDS to your advantage in getting things approved through Congress. You could have secret meetings with Mike Johnson and John Thune. They could take your agenda to Congress as their own, and you could come out vehemently against it. With you against anything Congress is putting it to a vote, every Democrat would vote for it and would pass with flying colors. I like this thought process, Ken. As far as solidarity, your legacy, all of the secret meetings could be recorded, and after your presidency sunsets, those recordings could be released to confirm the great things you have done for America. I like that idea, Ken. A little cloak and dagger, but I do like it. I appreciate it. All right, keep those waves, keep those comments coming in. Someone had asked me to mention this, and just as an update, the charter bus driver that was involved in Friday's catastrophic crash on I-95 in Virginia that killed 5 has been formally charged. This came out just the other day, but U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy did state that the Jing S. Dong does not speak English and has sparked an NTSB investigation into the driver's language proficiency. So thank you for passing that along. So Trump made a late night endorsement last night in 6 states ahead of Tuesday's primary, including in California. Among the candidates Trump has thrown his support behind is U.S. Representative Randy Feenstra from Iowa, who is seeking to become his state's next governor. I'm not going to read each individual one. In California, a state Trump and Republicans have routinely criticized over its majority Democrat leadership and are hoping to make gains in despite Democrats' statewide dominance. Trump has endorsed Steve Hilton in the gubernatorial race, and I know someone had mentioned that, and like I said, I skipped over some of the guests and some of the comments, and I apologize that. This viewer is saying, I'm wondering if anyone had heard whether Sheriff Chad Bianco was dropped out of the race in Cali. I have not heard that at all, but I hope Hilton beats Bass. California uses a top 2 primary system in which a candidate appears on the same ballot, the 2 highest vote getters. So in theory, it could be 2 Republicans. Trump said of current Governor Gavin Newsom, he is a truly fine man, one who was watched as his once great state has gone to, we'll say heck. Gavin Newsom and the Democrats have done an absolutely horrendous job. Crime is increasing and taxes are the highest of any state in the country, maybe the world. Steve can turn it around before it's too late, and as president, I will help him do so. With our administration working alongside a great governor like Steve Hilton, California can be better than ever before. Brian Mast received a nod. There's a few others. I know a lot of people were kind of surprised that, but I don't think there's anybody else to endorse. He endorsed GOP Representative Tom Keene. Well, Tom Keene has been missing for quite some time due to health issues, so there's a little surprise there. But he did endorse Representative Tom Keene. As I mentioned with, yes, thanks, spread the word. Yes, about that crash. It's horrible. We're going to find out more about that, so I do appreciate you sending that along. Since Spencer Pratt, I know it's just kind of a fun race to watch, but he made his final pitch before the mayor's election. He said, LA votes for Pratt or it votes for death. Woo, that's a campaign slogan. Pratt spent his final stretch of his campaign traveling across Los Angeles, holding community events and meeting directly with voters. Yeah, I saw videos from barbecues and really running a fascinating campaign. An estimated 150 people attended the event, gathering to discuss homelessness, crime, public safety, government accountability, and the future of LA. Pratt told the New York Post, Baldwin Village is a beautiful area with great people and tremendous potential. But the thing that stood out to me is how disappointed they are all with Karen Bass. They all feel disillusioned and demoralized with city leadership, and they find a glimmer of hope in seeing somebody running who hates and distrusts politicians as much as they do. 6 people die every day on the streets. Dogs and cats are tortured to death on Skid Row. Thousands more are euthanized in city shelters. Seniors are burning alive in preventable wildfires. The decline is a choice. Our city is on life support. It's time to choose differently. As of Monday, approximately 91,000 ballots had been returned since the most recent update, bringing total turnout to 306,000 ballots cast. With roughly 2.2 million registered voters in LA, turnout stands at about 14% as of today, leaving nearly 1.9 million ballots still outstanding. Political strategists who spoke to the New York Post said turnout patterns could play a significant role in determining the outcome of this race. Some of the city's strongest voter turnout is coming from West Side neighborhoods, including Pacific Palisades, where Pratt lives. So we will be watching that and make it a little fun on tomorrow's broadcast. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But we got to take a short break. We ran a little bit late with Joe, and it just hit me, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Our main weather influencer continues to be high pressure, keeping things comfortable and clear out there. Some nice sunshine for our Tuesday, a high of 73, and relatively light winds out of the north. As we head into the overnight hours, a lack of cloud cover will send temperatures into the mid to upper 40s. Then we find ourselves back in some upper 70s on Wednesday with some nice sunshine. The warming trend has mid 80s starting Thursday. Rain
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A couple comments from viewers. Rick writes in and says, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. Things are heating up again. Trump and Iran are trading volleys again. Art of the deal, with the laughing here. No doubt Trump bought oil low and sold high again today. He's getting richer over this war. He doesn't care about any of you. He is focused on manipulating the markets, fixing the elections, putting his name and face on anything that will hold still, building a dance hall with your money. Yes, your money, or did they stop that again? Paying off criminals with $2 billion of taxpayers. I don't know. It doesn't have time. He doesn't have time to worry about you or your cost of living. There's nothing in it for him. And then there's nothing in it for him. He doesn't give it a second thought. And Donald got a little testy with your buddy Benjamin Netanyahu. Absolutely, I like Benjamin Netanyahu. Wow. Ask him what he's doing. Nice talk, Don. And Donald's slush fund is crashing and burning. Judge says no way. I'm sure Trump will find the January 6ers some more work. Coming from a different viewer, nobody can argue this. President Trump really cleaned up Washington, D.C. The place is clean. All the drug addicts and homeless people have been removed from the parks. All the fountains have been cleaned out and are working again. All the graffiti has been removed from monuments and memorials. There's more security in the city and parks so parents can bring their kids outside to play without stepping on a needle or witness a homeless person with mental illness using the restroom in the park. Now, I would definitely visit Washington, D.C. again. The more improved Washington. Thank you very much. So it's going to be an interesting, as I said, interesting couple of elections tonight. We'll keep an eye on. So if you look at the California's governor's race, yes, there's a primary there. There is the theory could be, and I don't know if it shakes out like this, but the way their system works, you could have two Republicans vying for it in the general election, meaning that a Republican was guaranteed. I think that's tough. I don't know if that'll end up coming to fruition, but think also Kamala Harris was originally told, was going to run. Then Eric Swalwell was the front runner. He dropped out. So now it's going to be Xavier Beccari, Tom Steyer, Steve Hilton. Oh, did a Republican? Oh, the two top finishers, regardless of party, will advance in November. Hilton has in recent days urged Republicans who support Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco to unite around his candidacy, arguing a two Republican race is no longer possible. That's notable because Hilton would seem to have a little chance of becoming governor, but for a two Republican race. He seems to be more focused on just making the general election, in other words. If Hilton does make the general election, the Democrats he faces could be a heavy favorite. If the two Democrats, then it's game on. Then you got Spencer Pratt's race. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, right now, according to a UC Berkeley Los Angeles poll, Bass is at 26%, Rahman at 25%, and Pratt at 22%. And we'll see. All right, we got to take a break. We're getting ready to wrap up today's edition, frankly speaking. All right, we got just 2 more breaks. Get your comments. Keep those waves coming in. We'll be right back.
Go to your local library, create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine rentals, all with your library card. Go to your local library today.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Thousands of North Atlantic right whales used to swim along the east coast of the United States and Canada. Collisions with ships and entanglement in fishing gear are killing these magnificent animals every year. They could go extinct in your lifetime. But there's hope. If we act now, before it's too late, join Oceana to save North Atlantic right whales from extinction.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Man, the waves are still coming in. So the Democrat Maine Senate candidate, Graham Plattner, has broke his silence on this scandal, all of these text messages he sent out to other women. His wife was right by his side, but according to the New York Post, she stood by her man in the scandal after his campaign paid her $30,000. Presumptive Maine Democrat Senate nominee Graham Plattner's wife, Amy Gertner, has pulled in nearly $30,000 since September of last year as a salaried staffer for her husband's campaign. As at the end of March, Gertner had been paid $28,751 by the Graham for Maine campaign. And she also got a cell phone stipend of $37.50 in May. Now, Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, because remember, as we talked about with Joe Sempolinski, the Democrats are railing around Mr. Gertner. Put aside the Nazi tattoo and this scandal and many others. Senator Chris Murphy, his excuse was, I haven't you followed the minute-to-minute of what's happened over the last few days. But I do think there's a difference. I mean, Plattner has admitted that he's made big mistakes. He's talked pretty openly about some, on the older ones that I know more about, like the tattoo or some of the things he posted online. He said, listen, I was in a really bad place in my life. I regret it. That's fundamentally different than what Donald Trump is doing and saying. Donald Trump doesn't admit any wrongdoing in his life. He lies about everything. I think people understand in Maine that Plattner has made mistakes. He seems to still have a little or a lot of support. It doesn't seem to me that it's a distinction with a difference between what's happening in Maine and what's happened at the White House. So Plattner admits his mistake, But Trump denies his corruption. As I mentioned, Sonny Hoiston from The View admits or says that Plantner, is an anti-Semite, a liar, a racist, a homophobe. But at the end of the day, she wants him to win because our country is in grave, grave peril. But some on The View said, why can't we do better than him? And I think that's definitely a very fair question. It's disturbing. It's horrible. Why can't we do better? Why can't we have better candidates? Said Anna Navarro. Why do we have to have Ken Paxton in Texas who's got baggage? It's not even baggage. It's steamer trunks of ethical questions around him. Okay, and you notice that they're trying to equate the two because they're trying to downplay their support of Plantner, which there's no defending it, I don't think, but they are trying. GOP-leaning Elisa Farah argued that the Republicans have a history of casting aside character flaws in candidates and that the country has lived with the consequences of that. She contended that Democrats have other ways of winning besides Maine. Anyway, you get the idea. We got to take a short break, and then we are done with today's edition of Frankly Speaking. So get your last-second comments in, and we will be right back after this.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Our Maine weather influencer continues to be high pressure, keeping things comfortable and clear out there. Some nice sunshine for our Tuesday, a high of 73, and relatively light winds out of the north. As we head into the overnight hours, a lack of cloud cover will send temperatures into the mid to upper 40s. Then we find ourselves back in some upper 70s on Wednesday with some nice sunshine. The warming trend has mid 80s starting Thursday. Rain chances
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Ken writes in something slightly off topic. I read something in the Judicial Watch newsletter called Verdict that I found hard to believe, but given the corruption of the Biden administration, it's probably true. Just to set the stage, I could be wrong, but I believe that the process of an arrest warrant is a judge issues an arrest warrant to the police take the warrant with them and find the perpetrator, show him the warrant, and arrest him. Judicial Watch said that the Biden administration created and handed the arrest warrants to the illegal immigrants and then allowed them to use those arrest warrants as identification to board planes and buses. If this is true, it was a criminal affront against America's safety just to get new voters and slant the census numbers. I'd love to see that article from Judicial Watch. I'll have to look it up. Thank you, Ken, for bringing that to our attention. As I mentioned in an earlier hour, what other closets or what other skeletons are lurking in Graham Plantner's closet is a question that's now being asked. We don't have to go through his history. You know it at this point. These news stories are primarily coming from and being confirmed by Plantner's former political director, who resigned in October. McDonald was the person charged with doing internal opposition on Plantner, the normal vetting process whereby a campaign frankly assesses all their candidates' potential personal and political weaknesses. And as all those stories about Plantner's personal rottenness drip forth, all will all with immaculate sourcing and ironclad claims, I begin to ask myself what remaining skeletons could possibly be hiding in Graham Plantner's closet that would make McDonald not only quit his campaign, but also potentially dynamite her own career in order to tell the truth about him. What are we about to find out next about Graham Plantner? That's a great question. Liz Peek says that Democrats have a tiger by the tail. Democrat socialists are bringing money and energy to their party, but also a growing crop of anti-American, anti-capitalist, and often anti-Semitic candidates who scorn our country's tradition and values. These challengers may ride today's wave of anti-Trump sentiment, concern about AI and anger about high prices, and win in solidly Democrat areas like Manhattan. But long-term, they will become an embarrassment. AOC and her Democrat socialist colleagues are not going to breach the Oval Office anytime soon. And this again, Liz Peek at Fox News, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but meanwhile, the Democrat National Committee is at war with it itself, wrangling over, among other things, an incomplete and sloppy autopsy about how they lost in 2024. They don't need an autopsy. They need to listen to the few sane voices in their party which have decried Democrat support of biological men, competing in women's sports, defunding the police, open borders, and other unpopular issues. In addition, at some point, they'll have to freeze out the radical extremists who are hijacking their party and actively working against the best interest of the U.S. The voters will not stand it. And there's actually this theory Martha Jenkins has that that Republicans can win the midterms if they just stop underselling their successes, the concrete record of accomplishments to run on powered by President Trump's second-term successes. Newt Gingrich has proposed a practical midterm strategy reminiscent of the 1994 contract with America that urges Republicans to run hard on their winning record. The record includes such wins as a working families tax cut, the big beautiful bill extending the 2017 tax cuts, ending tax on tips and overtime, ending taxes on Social Security for most seniors, expanding the child tax credit and child care tax credits. It also permitted businesses to write off major investments, made permanent a 20% small business tax deduction, loosened restrictions on oil and gas leases, expanding workforce Pell Grants, providing investment accounts for children. The list goes on and on. The midterms, like the 2024 election, will pit normal people with normal ideas against crazy. The 2026 map is receptive to Republican ideas, and Republicans have a popular and winning record. Now they need to become their own best cheerleaders and make sure every voter knows it. That's Martha Jenkins, the president of the National Federation of Republican Women. Well, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Did we cover everything? Oh, I guess in that debate for New York's 21st congressional district, Dan Goldman, this is the Democrat primary, Dan Goldman and Brad Lander were asked if they would support Senator Chuck Schumer if he runs for re-election in 2028. Lander said, I think it's time for new leadership in the Democrat Party. That's why I'm running in this race against Representative Goldman, throwing Schumer under the bus. Goldman, who is seeking a third term, hedged, saying, I have not thought about it. I have no idea whether he's going to run or not. We'll deal with that when the time comes. Chuck Schumer getting it kind of tough from his own party. As we mentioned, New York Democrats eye single redistricting amendment. We can talk more about that, as it sounds like it could be passed either today or tomorrow, according to Joe Semplinsky. We'll find a little bit more about it, and we'll talk about more New York State issues on tomorrow's broadcast. Also on tomorrow's broadcast, we're going to be talking with Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard. On Thursday, it's Saritha Kamadareddy running for Attorney General here in New York. So get your questions to her ahead of time, if you don't mind, to that number on the bottom of the screen. And we want to thank, as always, our good friend, former Congressman, current Assemblyman Joe Semplinsky, for joining us on the program this morning. As I said, we'll make sure we book him before the primaries. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll be back tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I look forward to it already.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.